What's your favorite scary movie? Well, it sure as hell ain't this. Now, just to be clear, I didn't hate this movie, not by any means. I had a lot of fun. I love the Scream franchise. It might be my favorite horror franchise. That and Nightmare on Elm Street. I really, really love the Scream movies. But this film, to me, was kind of disappointing. It kind of left me feeling a bit underwhelmed. Were there some amazing sequences? Of course. Were there some not so amazing sequences? Unfortunately, yes. Whilst there are some things I really did love in this movie, the new setting in New York is awesome. Some of the returning characters are really, really great. And just generally seeing Ghostface back. I love that we get a new killer each movie. We get the iconic look of Ghostface, but we always get a new whodunit. So I like all of those aspects, and some of the kills are very intense and gory and horrific, and he's very clumsy, which I enjoy quite a lot. If Ghostface isn't clumsy and kind of stumbling about and falling over things and generally being a big old klutz, then how am I going to relate to him? Or, you know, get that nostalgia of being like in the other movies, he clumsy, he always a different person, but for some reason, even though they don't know each other, always clumsy. I like that. What I don't like? So much else. Most else. A lot. I mean, if I really could narrow it down into one aspect of this film that I found kind of overwhelmingly disappointing and just kind of shockingly baffling at a point where I'm just like, this isn't Scream 6. I mean, it is technically Scream 6, but this isn't really the 6th movie in the franchise. It doesn't feel like a sequel to the first 4. This feels like Scream 2. Again. This film really should have been called Scream 2: The Second Screaming, because this is a sequel to the 2022 film Scream, which is just called Scream. It's like, oh, for a long-running horror franchise, Scream 1 to 4, just clean, nicely, just Scream, Scream 2, Scream 3, Scream 4. Just the titles weren't convoluted and stupid and insane and kind of confusing where you're like, which one is this? And you have to really like do your research to figure out which movie's which. It's like, no, it was just clean. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pure. And then they were like, let's get super meta. Let's call Scream 5 Scream. And whilst I do like that for the movie because so many other horror franchises do that non-ironically, not with the satire, comedic twist that Scream is doing, and I think that works totally well. And they've also got YouTubers in the movie commenting on Stab 8 being called Stab. So, you know, they can say it before us YouTubers can rally and go, that's stupid and dumb. It's like, oh, I see what they're doing. But it feels like they don't know what they're doing because instead of calling this Scream 2, which it is on every single plot point you could possibly want it to be, it is just Scream 6. But not even 6, just Scream V1. Scream Roman numerals. See, I'm getting hot and flustered because I didn't love this Scream movie. I just want to love Scream. It's so good. It's just not as good as 5. And by 5, I mean Scream, but not original recipe Scream. Scream 2022 Scream. God damn that title. Probably the second worst Scream movie. I mean, I don't know what that means. If you love Scream, you're going to be like, wow, but it's not as bad as Scream 3 because that is a bad movie. A bad movie I love. I love it. I might even like it more than this. But it's not good. The voice modulators can do voices from the dead. It's unclear how. So just in case my thumbnail and title weren't clear, this is a spoiler review. So I'm going to just deep dive into the spoilers because that's really what I want to talk about this movie. Spoiler-free review is, if you like Scream, you'll mostly like it. Apparently a lot of people love this. It's not great though. There's stabbings, he's clumsy, it's violent, it's meta, kind of, but not really, and new Randy sucks. She sucks. She's the worst part of the film. Alright, now to spoilers! So how is Scream 2 the second Screaming like Scream 2? Well, in every way. So at the end of Scream 2, the killer is revealed to be the mother, the parent of the original killer, and she's super mad because, you know, her son died. She doesn't care that he's a psychopath. She just loved her son. Family bonds, parents, something or other. And in this film, it's that again. It's the sad dad. The sad dad of the guy from The Boys. Richie something or something? It doesn't matter, you saw Scream 5. But because we're at the point of no return and we're just gonna do sequels forever, we've got to up the ante. So it can't just be the sad parent. This time, there's kids involved, so it's the whole family. The whole family is like, how dare you kill Richie, the original killer from the first Scream 2022. We're back for revenge. And they're back for revenge, and it's like, alright, cool. Just the same as Scream 2. What else is like Scream 2? Well, every single main character from the first one, and by the first one, I do mean Scream 2022, they all just get stabbed to hell. They all just get completely stabbed, and, you know, they're dead. They die. We pretty much see them die, and then at the end, just like in Scream 2, it's like, they're not dead. But guess what these characters don't have on the originals? They're not good. They're not good characters. In Scream 2, Dewey is awesome. Gale is awesome. So when they get stabbed to hell and they survive, you're like, I cannot wait to see them in Scream 3. I'm sure that one will be the best one yet. But no, we've got character man who is now in love with Jenna Ortega. Probably because he, you know, looked at her and went, why wasn't I in love with her last movie? She's so... just beautiful and amazing. And so they have a romance that's come out of nowhere or whatever, and they're like, let's kiss, and then he gets stabbed 400 million times. He gets double Scream stabbed. We get double Ghostface. That actually, you know what, I loved double Ghostface. I didn't hate this movie. I just feel like it was weird. It felt weird and kind of directionless and just an odd film. Like, it just felt like it was doing so much we'd seen before, and it just felt like a movie where it was like, I guess we're just doing 6, but there felt like no closure to this movie where it was like, oh, this feels like it could end the franchise. It really just felt like they're like, we're doing 6, and next year we're going to do 7, and a year later, if we keep making money, we'll do 8. It really feels like Scream, this franchise that had a trilogy, and then 10 years later had Scream 4, and then 10 years later had the legacy sequel Scream 5, which felt like, to me, like a perfect wrap-up for the franchise. Like, we get all the legacy characters back. We lose Dewey. He dies like Han Solo dies in The Force Awakens. It feels like a perfect legacy sequel ending where the fan favorite dies, all these new characters come up, and it kind of wraps everything up. It felt like a good way to end the franchise. And not just that, but we had covered all the things the movie could meta commentary on. The first one, horror movies, just scary movies in general. The second one, sequels. The third one, trilogies. The third one kind of forgets what it's meant to be doing as such, just kind of doing a Hollywood thing. But then it does bring back the long lost brother who was behind it all along. And he was, you know, he's the mastermind behind the last 2. And it retcons everything good about the first 2, which feels like almost like ahead of its time. Like, it feels like a mistake. Like, it didn't mean to be so stupid and dumb. But so many trilogy enders are so stupid and dumb. Like this, like Scream 3 feels like it is parroting and satirizing Rise of Skywalker. But it came out like 35 years earlier or whatever, like a long time before. It's a weird one. I like it, probably nostalgia. And then we had reboots and remakes and all that stuff, even though it really isn't either of those. But it said it was or whatever, I don't know. I just love that one. And then it has legacy sequels, which just felt such a perfect way to wrap up pretty much all the movies, the modern movies right now, legacy sequels. Your Top Gun Mavericks, your Force Awakens, good examples. And then you've got Jurassic Dominion, the worst possible example. But you've got examples left, right, and center. It's what we're doing, and that just felt like a good way to wrap it up. And I remember thinking after it, what are they going to do for Scream 6? Like, why even make Scream 6? Like, at this point, it's just a sequel that shouldn't exist in this giant franchise. So what are they going to do? Comment on the fact that this big, long, ongoing franchise that shouldn't exist anymore, and all the legacy sequel characters just feel like they're kind of just there to be like nostalgia or something. Like, it doesn't feel like it, like, you know, supports the story and like helps it anymore. And they just did that. They're just like, I don't know, it's a franchise now, so nothing matters. Legacy characters, don't care about them. They'll die. They won't. Who cares? Everybody can die. Except that nobody will die, because this is Scream 2. Again, Scream 2, the second Screaming, and then we'll get Scream 7, which will be Scream 3, Scream 8, Scream 9, and it just feels like a movie where I'm like, wow, I really didn't think I would feel that 1 year kind of gap. We got the first 3 Scream movies, and then Scream 4 was 10 years later, and then 10 years it took to make Scream 5, and then it was 1 year between Scream 5 and 6. And you can feel it. Like, the script doesn't have that kind of biting, satirical meta-commentary on horror films, on movies. Like, it's like lip service at times where new Randy, who I cannot stress enough, is the worst part of the film. Every time she speaks, I'm like, oh, new Randy! So close to just not working, but it does work because Kevin Williamson, he's just got that way with dialogue, that way with satire. And he's able to kind of I don't know if it's just like going back and redraft, and kind of like just creating it, or if he's just got a way with words. It's hard to tell, but I feel like with this movie, you can tell he didn't write it. I think 5 got away with it. Maybe it was just fresh. Maybe they've been trying to, create the script for a very long time. So they had really kind of nailed down how to make it good. Or maybe it's just the fact that legacy sequels were something that needed to be parodied, needed to be satirized. But also, they are a tried and true formula for a reason. They're a reason every franchise is doing it. It works. But just another movie that's in a franchise, even though it's been a franchise since the 4th one. Like, as soon as you go past the trilogy, it's a franchise. I mean, even once you do 2 movies, technically, if the IP is successful, it's a franchise. So, I don't know, the idea of they have the big nerd meta scene where new Randy runs about and just yells at everybody and everybody cringes and goes, what's with this franchise talk? And she's like, there's new rules, New York new rules, baby, Big Apple, ba-ba-da-ba, new rules. And it just doesn't work this time. They're like the best scenes in the movies, and this time it's just like, ugh. It's like the screen turned into a lemon and my whole mouth is like, ugh. Ugh. Now, before we go down the rabbit hole of what I did not like, because, yeah, the list is long. It's like, it's long. I mean, it's mostly 2 or 3 points, but they are big points, big, devastatingly disappointing points. But before we get to that, let's talk about what really did work. There was a scene in the subway which I found really kind of compelling and thrilling and kind of horrific and very meta. There's all the people with Halloween masks on. We've got a Hellraiser, we've got a Halloween, and I don't know, there was probably a million others or whatever. And I thought all of that was really, really effective, despite the lighting just not really feeling very realistic, feeling like it was like, this is a horror movie, so lighting bad. I can't imagine the subway's lighting is that bad. But you know what? I'm not a New York guy. I'm never like, I'm walking here or whatever. I don't know what it's like there in New York. Maybe the subway's lighting is the worst lighting ever. Maybe it's atrocious, so I don't know. Maybe that really seems like an issue like the city council should fix, because it felt like a parody of Gotham. It was insane, but a great scene nonetheless. I really love Jenna Ortega in this movie, but to be honest, not really sure if I enjoy her and her character in this movie, or if I just love Jenna Ortega. I just love her so much. I want to meet her. I want to say hello. She's just amazing. She's like my new Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Sorry, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, but I mean, have you seen Jenna Ortega? Despite my feelings of this film being disappointing and slightly underwhelming and just not what I wanted it to be, I always love seeing Ghostface. I love seeing clumsy, klutzy Ghostface running about, and he's silly and klutzy and falling all over the place, and then suddenly he gets the knife and he stabs someone, and it's horrifying and terrifying and thrilling and chilling and, all the scary, spooky words. He does it all, and I love that we always get the iconic Ghostface costume and mask, but every single movie it's a new killer, a new whodunit. I always love that aspect of the Scream movies. I just love being able to kind of go back and rewatch the movie as well, like on a second viewing, and trying to figure out like who was the Ghostface at which point, because there's usually always more than one, except for that one movie in which there's only one, which is clearly the worst Scream movie. Maybe. I kind of like have a soft spot for it because of nostalgia and just being an idiot man who is clearly wrong, because that movie, it does suck, but I love it. Whereas I didn't love this movie. I don't know, it just had something missing. And no, I'm not talking about Nevee Campbell, but she is gone and it's super disappointing. It's super, super frustrating. If you're not aware, she asked for the reasonable amount of money that she deserves, being the leading star, the franchise's face, apart from the Ghostface, but anyone can be behind the mask, but she is the final girl. She is the main character in all the movies. Except for Scream 3. She's really not in Scream 3 as much as she should be. For some reason, the actress who's playing Gale Weathers in Stab 3 is in that movie more than, Sidney Prescott is, but Oh, that film. Oh, it's a little rascal. It's the black sheep of the Scream franchise, and I just can't help but love it. It's so weird though. Like, do you guys remember that Jay and Silent Bob are in that movie? Which means that all his movies, all the Jay and Silent Bob movies, are in the Scream universe. It's one universe. I mean, I don't know what to make of that. I just don't know what to make of that. It's also a universe in which there is an actress who looks identical to Carrie Fisher, and she's played by Carrie Fisher, but she's not Carrie Fisher. But because she's played by Carrie Fisher, everyone's like, "Are you Leia? Are you Carrie Fisher?" And she's like, "No, I just look like her." Scream 3. That little rascal. It's a weird one. So Nevee Campbell, who plays Sydney Prescott, the best final girl of all the final girls. Yes, take that, Jamie Lee Curtis. So she asked for the appropriate amount of money to be in Scream 6, and they just went, "No, we don't need you." Why? Because this is an aimless nothing franchise, and we're going to do 7, 8, 9, and this film just kind of means nothing. And we'll bring you back when you lower your standards, because we're not going to lower our standards. And did I go into this film wanting to hate it because of that? Absolutely not. Had they released this film the day I found out that news, like if I had found that out the day I was going to see the movie, I would have probably been in a bit of a mood, because I hate that. It like actually makes me feel kind of sick. Like she's like, there's no way she asked for something that was like the whole budget. Like, I don't even know what number it was. I don't know what the number of budget of the film was, but she would have asked something that was appropriate to what she deserved. Some actors in movies get paid obscene amounts of money. Like the amount the Friends actors got in that last season of Friends, or the last couple, is obscene money, crazy money. But this is movies, this is TV. Like, they get paid the money because they are the star. They are the face of the franchise. And the idea that these new creators that aren't Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson, the director and the writer of the original 4 movies, the idea they just went, "Nah, this isn't even really Scream 6. It's really Scream 2 of our new franchise. We don't even need her. We love our new cast." It's like... But apart from Jenna Ortega, but maybe that's just because I love Jenna Ortega and I loved Wednesday, and she's just so cute and adorable, but kind of terrifying, and just, she's a complex woman, and I have lots of feelings around her, but the rest of the cast is super forgettable. Like, the difference between them all dying, but then it's like, oh, actually, those 17,000 stab wounds Chad got, like, he's not dead. It's like, not like, yes, I can't wait to see him in Scream 7. It's not like when Dewey gets stabbed 55 times each movie, and he keeps coming back until you sons of bitches killed him. But I respected that. That was necessary. That was okay. But the idea they just were like, we're not going to pay her. We don't need her. Well, I mean, maybe she was lucky to skip this one. But also, this film really could have used her. So my favorite part of this film was the opening scene. And I mean, usually for a film to have the best scene, your first 10, 15 minutes, usually that would be kind of disappointing. But the Scream franchise's opening scenes are iconic. They're some of the best opening scenes. I would argue that the opening 10 minutes of the first original recipe Scream is the best opening to any movie ever. I can't really think of something else that stands out as so amazing and so iconic and just kind of blew me away and kind of has stayed with me. And I really, really love Scream 2. My dream is to one day go into a cinema where everybody is just dressed as Ghostface, just running about screaming and going mental, just throwing popcorn and stabbing each other with fake plastic knives and just causing a ruckus and just quoting the movie and just going absolutely mental. I love that. I love that start of that movie. And then it takes that dark, twisted turn. Scream 3, it's nothing. It's the worst one. It's the only not good one. Scream 4, where we go through 3 of the stab movies, and it just keeps getting more crazy and crazy. And it's just so insane and shocking and amazing. I can't believe they got the main girl from True Blood and Veronica Mars for like a minute and a half at the start of the movie. Just love it, love it, love it. Scream 5, because it's a legacy sequel and it's just doing the original, but new and fresh and, you know, all the legacy sequel things. That's fantastic. Jenna Ortega just, she's the star. And 6 does not disappoint. It is easily my third favorite start. It is just brilliant. It is so kind of fun and witty and subversive. I love how it's just these two people talking. We get Samara Weaving from Ready or Not and probably other things. I think she was in Old, and she's like, I'm super young and I hope I definitely don't get old on this very normal beach. Oh, Samara Weaving, you're in for a shock. It's such a fun, exciting opening scene. We start with an old-looking telephone. It does the ring-a-ding-ding because it's a Scream movie. We start with the ringing phone, but then she gets some text. She's doing some texting back because it's a modern day or whatever. But then she has to call this guy, and I don't feel like the rest of the film ever feels like it's kind of really cleverly talking about film in this meta way, in this meta commentary way, where it's discussing film and doing it in the kind of slightly too nerdy, where it's almost cringy, and it just doesn't really ever feel like the dialogue flows, except in this opening scene. Like, this opening scene is amazing. I love how they kind of subvert our expectations. Apologies to people who don't like Rian Johnson, and that word triggers them, and they're like, Last Jedi! Don't say it! But it does so cleverly subvert our expectations, where it picks up the phone, and it's none other than Spider-Man's friend. That guy from the new Spider-Man movies. And he's like, hey, I can't find the door. Where's the door? Oh, I can't believe I've gotten lost in this crazy New York City. Oh, how embarrassing is this? And then Samara Weaving's character is just being super nerdy and talking about like 20th century slasher films and just being so kind of cringy and awkward. But she's saying stuff and then just kind of being like, oh, I can't believe I'm doing this on the phone. Oh, this is not how I want this date to be going. But she's discussing all these things and all the tropes and all the cliches and all these things, which is classic Scream, discussing the thing about films, but then doing the thing as well. And she just keeps going on, and I just found that all really, really good. And the whole time, I'm like, he's got to be the killer, but maybe the twist that he's not. And then at one point, he's like, oh no, I'm getting screamed. And then we get our moment where she goes into the alley, and he's like, it's me, the scary voice on the Scream movie. And then he mocks her because she walked into an alley in New York, even though she is like a slasher professor. She's a professor of slasher movies, and she still went into the alley like a character in a slasher movie. And all of that was nice and fun and meta and silly and dumb. And then stab, awful and brutal and awful. And I was like, I don't understand why they let us hear the killer's voice. Clearly, that's Spider-Man's friend from the new Spider-Man movies. Or Toby from Servant, the Apple TV series Servant. Like, it's his voice. Like, surely I'm not the only one in the cinema. Like, not everybody watching is going to get that. Because not everyone's an uber nerd who's just... These aren't the things that I should know. But here's the thing, I noticed it, but I'm like, so I know who it's going to be. So are we going to reveal? And then as he does the stab, it doesn't cut down and it doesn't say Scream like all the movies usually do in that last stab. The slash of the screen, it's like, Scream, blah, 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 new Scream movie. It like holds on it and I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be revealed. And he takes the mask off and we find out who the killer is. They're going to subvert expectations. Once again, sorry, Last Jedi flashbacks. I know, I don't agree, but I know. And we get this really interesting setup for a movie that I feel like I would have probably preferred to see, where we have the killer being revealed, and then, oh my God, the moment where he's just walking away from the kill, puts all the costume down, hides it away, and he just walks off, and then he passes Jenna Ortega's character, and he's just like, oh, I'll see you at the party, and I'm like, oh my God, he's already infiltrated her tight-knit group of friends, because it's always someone you know, but this time, the reason this film is going to exist is we're going to follow it from the killer's perspective, the whole movie. How interesting, how fresh, how do you keep a franchise going when you've done all the things, all the horror things for all the movies, and this movie has come out 1 year later than the Legacy sequel, so there's not like a new, fresh thing to kind of mimic. You're just another film in the franchise. You can't possibly make your meta commentary that it's just another film in the franchise. So they do, because it's not a clever movie, and they just churned it out for money or whatever. I don't even know why. This doesn't need to be a Saw franchise where we get one every Halloween. It just doesn't need to be that. Not that there's anything wrong with Saw. I do actually really like the Saw franchise, even though they are a lot to deal with. But I just love the idea that we're going to follow the killer throughout the movie, and we're going to follow him and his friend, and he gets on the phone with his friend, and his friend's kind of playing with him, doing the voice and being all creepy, and that was a bad one. I got to say, what's your favorite scary movie? And then I can kind of get back into the voice. Otherwise, yeah, it's like, accents aren't my thing. Obviously. But I feel like at that point in the film, I was so on board. I was like, this is gonna be the best Scream movie. Since original recipe Scream. Not gonna be better than that. You can't be better than the best. But I don't want it to be. I just want it to be a really great, entertaining, exciting, interesting film. And then he gets killed and the killer's like, you disrespect the legacy or whatever, and I won't let you be the Scream boys or anything. He's like, stab, 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 I'm actually the Scream guy. And for a second, I was like, it's gonna be Stu. It's gonna be Stu. They originally was gonna plan for him to be the mastermind at the end of Scream 3. So it's gonna be Stu. They finally brought back Shaggy from the Scooby-Doo franchise, and he's gonna poke his tongue out. His giant, enormous tongue that's like the size of a bloody hand. It's all like, his tongue action is. I don't want to say it's the best part about the original Scream. But no, it doesn't turn out to be original recipe Stu from original recipe Scream 93, 96's Scream? Let's go with 96. Doesn't really matter. The first Scream. Is it going to be Stu? Is he killing people because they're disrespecting the legacy and he's the OG? No. It's just a sad dad who wants to kill them first. What a disappointing waste of a fantastic opening. And then the rest of the movie happens and it just kind of stumbles around a bit. They go, oh, it's just a franchise now and anything can happen and nothing matters. That's not a meta commentary on anything. That's just trying to wave around the fact that this movie is going to be meandering in nothing and just, I don't know, setting it in New York. It's like, it's fresh, it's different, it's New York. It's mostly just in people's houses, though, you know. The subway scene, feel like the only scene that was like, it's New York, whoa, New York, New York. I'm walking here. I don't know. Maybe I'm just disappointed because, you know, the Ghostface wasn't like, I'm walking here, or something. Maybe, if they'd done that, maybe I'd have liked this movie. And I didn't hate it. I just did not love it. And I was going to love it. I sat down in the cinema and I was like, I cannot wait to love this movie. And then I left it and I'm like, Kirby's in it. Remember Kirby from the fourth one? Remember when the fourth one came out and we all had still remembered Heroes? And we're like, it's the cheerleader from Heroes. Save the cheerleader, save the world. She's an FBI agent now. Sure she is. That's cool. Felt like she was underutilized. Her and Gale Weathers, they feel like just put in to be like, oh god, we lost Sidney Prescott, the main character. Other characters, why are they there? She's just a news reporter, and then we have a scene with her and she almost dies, and it just feels so separate. They could just not be in the movie. It just feels a bit like pushed into their movie, their sequel, and these legacy sequel characters, it felt so kind of part of the movie in 5. Whereas in this one, they just felt like they were put there, and they're like, Gale Weathers rocks up, and she's like, dodges the punch. Remember that first movie where I got punched, and then she gets punched, and we're all like, ha ha ha, nostalgia, baby! Remember berries, remember this, remember that? I do. Also, that got the biggest reaction out of the cinema. I don't know how the cinema felt because I was very absorbed in the Scream. But I don't know. It wasn't like the cinema didn't react in the way I was kind of hoping because it was a big packed cinema. I felt like my cinema, the last time I saw a big horror movie, was Smile. And the cinema really reacted to that movie. Screams, scares, shocks, awes, reacting to the things that happen. In this, it was pretty quiet. Actually, you know what? The one moment that everybody in the cinema reacted to was like, I was just sitting with my mate and we were just kind of talking about the film. And like, we weren't waiting for a post-credit scene. Wait, maybe he was. I don't know. He didn't get up and he was like next to the aisle. So I was just waiting for him to get up. So we were just talking about the movie as the kind of credits rolled. And by that, I mean, we were talking, but I was also paying very close attention to every person who made the movie to give them my deepest respect. Because, of course, I love movies, and I love everybody who made the movie, and I will read all their names, because I can fast read like that. I read Game of Thrones in like 3 minutes. I am a quick reader. we were sitting there doing whatever, reading the things or whatever. And then the post-credit scene came up. And new Randy, the worst character in the Scream franchise, I'm calling it right now, the worst character in the Scream franchise, she looks and goes, not everything needs a post-credit scene. And everybody just went, oh, boo, groan, boo. And then one person said, yeah, that's right. And then another person was like, no, I reckon they should. I'm paraphrasing, but it was a bit of a back and forth. And that got the biggest reaction out of the crowd. And that was half the crowd at that point. Probably not even half. Probably like a third of the crowd. And I think that says a lot about how this film's going to be received. Although I do think this film is going to make a lot of money. I don't know. It's not a bad movie. I just found so many elements just kind of weak. Like, I don't care about any of these new characters. It's a Scream movie. He runs about and he does some stabby stabs. At one point, he gets a shotgun. He's like, bam! Kind of feel like he should probably got them in that convenience store. I don't really see how they got out of that. Just clumsy Ghostface. He's a bad killer. He's a bad killer. That's what it is. Which one was it though? It's got me though. I'm going to rewatch it at some point because I want to know which of the 3 killers it was at those points. Actually, thing I did love. That guy who's like, I'm just the goofy sidekick, Ethan or whatever. Let's call him Ethan. Who cares what his name was? But Ethan was like, I'm just the curly-haired, nerdy white guy. It can't possibly be me. Am I even friends with you guys? Why am I even here? And they were like, it's clearly you, Ethan, you son of a bitch. It's clearly you. And I was like, it's such a obvious misdirect, back to a direct, back to a... I feel like they were putting so much emphasis that it can't be him. I'm like, but it has to be him. But then I was like, is that too obvious? I'm like, no, that's it. He is definitely one of the killers. And then one of the other killers is someone who just flat out we saw die. So that feels cheap and unfair. Like, how am I supposed to figure out that someone who got proper killed? Like, I know that happened in the original, and it probably happened in, like, all of them. But right at the end, with Billy getting stabbed like that, like, I don't know, at least the way where, like, he's stumbling out, and he's like, I'm actually not dead yet. But then, like, he licks it and he's like, oh, like, I don't know, it has a flow to it that works naturally. Whereas just having someone die out of the movie for like an hour and a half and then be like, actually, twist, I didn't die in that scene. You're like, how am I supposed to figure that out? And a whodunit where you just can't figure it out and it's just a random, like, left field turn. It just feels like, okay. Because the other two, like the dad, I suspected him from the start. Like, when he came out and he's like, oh, I'm just super sad about all this. I'm like, I don't know why, but he's sus, because he's just a sus-looking guy. Yeah, the more and more I talk, the more I feel like I didn't like this movie. But I just love Scream, so I'm so conflicted. It's like, I love the stabby stab, and they're like, oh, but it's just, so much is missing. I feel like I went on about a 15-minute tangent then, but I feel like at some point I was talking about Nevee Campbell and the fact she wasn't in the film, and they do a throwaway line, which really, it like grated my, I just felt like someone grabbed a thing that grates the cheese. Cheese grate, a grater, and they just grated my skin. I was just like, ooh. Don't do that. That actually really hurts. Like, my skin, ow. What am I in, sore? Ow. I did not like it, because Gail is just like, hey, Sydney couldn't come because we didn't pay her enough money. For some reason, you paid me some money or whatever. I guess because I'm not the leading girl or whatever, and I guess all those billions and billions of dollars from Friends, I just didn't ask for much money because I don't need any money. I'm happy to be here. Ish. Be here for the 2.5 scenes I'm in. But she's like, Sydney Prescott sends her wishes, and she's run away with her family. She's got a safe and happy ending. I just feel like you don't, like, it was like a 15-second scene. Just don't mention her name. Because as soon as you mention her name, I'm just like, now I'm just thinking about the fact that all the creative production team behind this movie didn't pay her enough to be in the movie I want to see her in, her franchise, and they thought they were better than her, and that she wasn't worth the money, which she clearly is. She's fantastic. It just, like, to mention that in the movie, I was completely not in my mind, because I just knew she's not in the movie. And then to be like, oh, she's just got a happy ending. Oh, she's just going to live the happiest of lives. Fun twist, though. She avoided being in a bad movie. Not a bad movie, just, like, not a good movie. So what does that mean? I mean, like, it's just a movie. Member berries. It's like, oh my God, just stop. Like, for 5 seconds, stop. Like, just, I don't know. Somehow, like, in Scream 3, I love that they go to the house. Like, it's not the house, it's the set. Like, the set of the movie doing Stab 3 has the house of Sidney Prescott. So Sidney Prescott's there in the house, and the scene and the house and the room is set up for the murder scene. And that's so meta, and that's so, like, member berries. But I feel like that works because, like, she's living in this world where they're recreating her life in the movies. Meta commentary and cinema and life influencing art and art influencing life. And it's just this crazy hybrid combination of everything. For me, I really love that. It works. I love that at the end of Scream 2022, Scream, we get to this big scene with the house and she's like, oh my God, you're in the house of the original murder. Someone got you there. And then it pans out of the house. It's like, and you get a big shot of the house and you're like, oh my God. Like, you pan up and you see the stairs for the first time. And suddenly we see the house from a new angle. And it's the house from the original movie. And it's like, because they're trying to recreate the original movie because the movies have gone off script. The last one was directed by Ryan. It's so funny and stupid, I can't even say it. The last movie in the Stab franchise was directed by Ryan Johnson. And they're doing all these things. It's so weird to make like a legacy sequel that feels like the Scream version of Force Awakens while mocking Ryan Johnson and then making a movie they're making Scream 6, which is clearly worse a sequel to Scream 5 than Star Wars Last Jedi is to Force Awakens. Even though I know now 70% of you hate me because I said Last Jedi wasn't bad. But just hear me right now. It is bad. It sucked. I hated it. Oh, I hated it. What I said before was for those losers, those 30% of losers that love that movie. Those idiots. I actually love the movie. Don't tell those idiots over there. That stuff they did with Luke Skywalker. Challenging. I'm a man of the people. I'm a man of both sides. Unless you like this movie. No, that's not fair. If you like this movie, good for you. I honestly, I'm jealous. Super jealous. I just don't know how that could be the case because it's just not very good.